Hey guys, welcome back to the Milcert Man channel. Today I want to talk about my absolute favorite piece of military history, Milcert, and piece of Americana, and it's going to be the U.S. Carbine Caliber 30 M1, or otherwise known as M1 Carbine, or M1 Carbine, or even just 30 caliber carbine. The M1 Carbine, guys, if you haven't shot one or owned one, you're doing yourself a severe disjustice to yourself. The M1 Carbine's been in countless movie and pop culture throughout history. It's been in countless conflicts around the world and been carried by our soldiers during the Korean War and World War II conflicts, along with the early days of Vietnam. And it's full of history when it comes to development and also the manufacturing capability. When I look at the M1 Carbine, my mind automatically goes back to just the vast industrial might the U.S. had during World War II, due to the vast majority of different manufacturers that manufactured parts for these, spanning from a jukebox company all the way to Winchester or General Motors. It's just very interesting. Not to mention, like we already said in movies, the number one person that comes to mind when I think of the M1 Carbine was Tom Sizemore character in Saving Private Ryan, carrying around the M1 Carbine. That was just always a staple in my head. So the reason I'm making this video is to kind of do a quick buyer's guide if you're looking at one of these in a shop, or if you're looking at one at a gun show. Now there's countless videos on the internet talking about these guns in depth manufacture, the in-depth parts. There's about 3 to 4 different variations of each part on the M1 Carbine. But if you're looking for a quick buyer's guide, just enough to know to be dangerous, which I do consider myself to know quite a bit, since this is what I mainly collect in my collection. I figured I'd arm you guys with a little bit more knowledge, keep yourself from getting burnt, and also keep you guys from making a huge mistake when purchasing what's supposed to be a World War II correct or a true World War II M1 carbine when it in fact is not. So what I have before you for today is my early 1943 IBM M1 carbine and a late war 1944, late 44 Inland Division General Motors M1 carbine. Both of these are indicative of what you might see in the wild. This is more typical what you might see. This is more of a rare aspect, but if you do see one of these, it's important to know the features to look out for. And also, these are highly faked, so you can take a M1 carbine like this and turn it into this, because these parts are around. So I'm going to show you a few tips to look out for if you see one of these and you know what they are, to kind of keep from yourself from getting burnt. So anyway, we'll go ahead and move the camera in closer, and we'll take a look at the muzzle ends first and work our way back. And hopefully we can do a quick and lengthy video, or quick and easy video for you guys to identify these. So without further ado, let's go ahead and move the camera in and take a look. Okay, we got our camera moved in closer, so we can take a look at our barrels. You can see we've got our 1943 early war M1 carbine on top, and our indicative post-war or late war build on the bottom. Now what jumps out at you right off is that you can see we have a obvious bayonet lug on this one, as there are early war no bayonet lug. We can also see we have a type 1, what's referred to as a narrow band, and a type 3 wide band with the bayonet lug. There's also a type 2 wide band that doesn't have a bayonet lug. I don't have one of those in my collection for reference, but that's also one that you can look out for. Now, almost all of M1 carbines that you'll see in the wild will have a bayonet lug, due to the vast majority of M1 carbines after World War II went through a arsenal refurbishment. There's very, very few M1 carbines out in the wild that haven't went through that type of refurbishment process. So if you see one of these that have a bayonet lug, don't be alarmed. If you see one that's kind of slick, you'll know that's either a early war or mid-war M1 carbine that hadn't went through the refurbishment process, or it could be a very early one that maybe a GI had brought home, or even a Royal Tiger had brought in a couple of years ago a large batch of these early war M1 carbines that hadn't gone under refurbishment. So I will add too, a lot of people try to fake these early war ones, and one indicative way to tell on the barrel is you can easily find these bands, even the type 2 wide bands, a little bit more. A lot of people will try to remove these sights and take this bayonet lug off and replace the bayonet lug assembly with one of these type 1 bands or type 2 wide band without the bayonet lug. After this has been married on this gun for years, 60 plus years, 70 plus years, there's going to be a distinct coloration between the outside metal and the inside metal that this bayonet lug's been rubbing up against, and there's a distinct coloration in this area. So if you see an M1 carbine that does not have a bayonet lug, and it has the early war feature of the type 1 or type 2 band, and they're trying to pass it off as being authentic World War II original, you'll know automatically that if you see a discoloration in this area on this naked barrel, you'll know that they have definitely taken one of these off and replaced it with one of these. They're very, very easy to see. And if you do take part in the M1 carbine well, this barrel assembly or this bayonet look assembly, you'll be able to tell it very easily. The discoloration here, it's very obvious that one of these were on there. It just matches. So that's one thing to keep an eye out for. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on down the firearms, and we'll keep taking a closer look. Okay, well, another quick thing we'll take a look at is the stock channel. We can see here on this M1 carbine, as well as this, we can see what's referred to as a high wood. You can see how the wood's kind of riding high in the stock channel along with this one. Now, I don't have a low wood M1 carbine stock to show you in my collection, but what the low woods are, they were leaf cut right through here and made this just a little bit wider to keep from cracking, because they had problems with these cracking in theater along here in this area of the M1 carbine. So what they did is they just relief cut this area. Also, you can see in a later on production M1 carbines, a stock that's a little bit fatter through here. That's otherwise known as an M2 potbelly stock that's fatter in this area. That was made for the M2 carbine under full auto fire to better protect the shooter's hand and to be a more rigid stock to be under full auto fire. So you can see multiple different variations of carbine stocks when you're looking at one. Just be aware that the early war stocks are going to be high wood and low, or they are going to be high wood and low wood. But if you see one that does have the fat potbelly stock, it's probably more than likely going to be post-war. Those were added to very late World War II, towards the end, and and post-war. So more than likely, if you have somebody posing these being World War II original or an early war M1 carbine with potbelly stock, you'll know that's not the case. I'll also bring your attention over here to our magazine releases and also our safeties. Now, all World War II M1 carbines were equipped with a push-button safety. You can see this one's a slick face. There's also one even earlier than this, the checkered facing. I did have one of those in my collection at one point in time, but it's no longer with me. And we can see here what it's referred to as our top 3 rotary safety. Those are indicative of World War II rebuild. Every time, I don't believe any of these made it into theater in time, or even were produced during World War II. So if you see a flip safety, you know it's going to be a rebuild part. If you see a push button safety, you'll know it's going to be World War II. And the reason they switched over to this is because to my information, GIs were actually hitting the magazine release instead of their safety, and it would drop their magazine, or that's the rumor rather. Also, in our magazine catches, you'll see that our early war carbines do not have any kind of M or M and another M on the mag catch. It's just a slick face. Unlike our late war, we can see our M and MA, and what that means, and I don't think this one has it, but the later war magazine catches will have a dog leg, which is referred to a dog leg right here, and that's to accommodate the 30-round magazine that has a weight latch on it to hold the weight of the 30 rounds. They were developed for the M2 carbine, which was full auto that we had mentioned, and that was to support the weight of that. That way all the weight wasn't just on the latch itself inside the gun. So if you see one of those, you're going to know it's going to be a late war feature. Someone's changed that out. So without further ado, let's go ahead and move on to the top portion. Okay, moving to the top of our rifles here, we can see our top early war IBM has what's referred to as a flat bolt, more indicative of kind of like an M1 Grand bolt, and our bottom has what's referred to as our top 3 round bolt. Now these were introduced around late 44, early 45 with the introduction of the M2 carbine, and they were produced and used for, like I said, the M2 carbine under full auto fire was found to be more of a durable part and also easy to manufacture. If you don't know, M1 carbine bolts are actually known to break right around this lug right here under a lot of stress, and over the years there's shooters nowadays that fire M1 carbines also have their bolts break. So if you do plan on getting more of a shooter M1 carbine, do keep that in mind. If you're wanting more of a shooter, I'd probably recommend getting the round bolt. It is a stronger, more durable part. If that doesn't matter to you and you just want more collectability, then the flat bolt's fine, and you can shoot them. Just be cautious because they are known to break around the lug. I also draw your attention to our operating rods. So we can see both of these have similar op rods. There's also 2 other variations, one of them that come more over the receiver a little bit at a different angle, and I believe that was to aid in brass deflection, to my knowledge, and also a different manufacturing. I don't have those in my collection to show you, but there is a little bit different variation of op rods. But okay, I'd like to draw your attention to the rear sights here because there's a major variation. What we have here is a Type 1 L flip sight and a Type 2 adjustable milled sight. There's also a Type 3 that's stamped. They're almost identical. One's stamped. It's a little bit more narrow around the ears, the protected wings here. Anyway, early World War II and throughout World War II, they used the L-flip sight until very, very late World War II. Some M1 carbines were equipped with the Type 2 milled adjustable sight. I do not believe there were any Type 3 adjustable stamp sights in theater, but there have been pictures of these spotted on M1 carbines with the Type 2 wideband that we talked about earlier. One way to tell if these have been swapped out, because these are easily accessible, reproduction and original. They are pricey, but you can find reproductions for a little bit cheaper. Especially when the Pacific came out, a lot of people would drift these sights out and replace them with a flip sight. And one way to tell that that's been done is that all these sights, especially the Type 3 stamp sights, were staked in place on right here on the sight bridge. So if you get a Type 1L sight that has a staking mark on the sight bridge there, you know it's been changed out and you know to stay away, or that person is trying to pass off these guns or World War II correct M1 carbine is lying to you. It's very important to note that on these things, guys, because unfortunately a lot of fakes are trying to be passed around, and these rifles are very, very expensive. They're not cheap anymore. So you definitely want to make sure that you're getting what's been told to you is original. So that's kind of the point of this video. There is one more thing I'd like to add on talking about M1 carbines. All the manufacturer markings will be located right here behind the rear sight. Now, if it's on these post-war or late World War II sights, they will be hard to see under here. You'll have to take a flashlight and look underneath at the first and last letter of the manufacturer name to identify. Sometimes on these late war guns like this Inland, it'll be raised down a little bit lower. You can actually read it. This is a 6.7 million serial number, so Inland actually purposely made this gun where you can see the serial or the manufacturer code, because this gun probably originally had a Type 2 sight where it's a later gun, very, very late 44. On these right here, you can almost always identify them, or you can't always identify them with that flip sight that's the receiver's open. You can see IBM Corp. You can also see Underwood, Winchester. There's 13 different major manufacturers during the World War time. So I won't go into all that. There's other videos that explain all the different manufacturers, but it's important to know that you can identify this. If you ever see anything like Universal, Plainfield, Ira Johnson, or just anything else, sometimes the post-war or the commercial M1 carbines are marked here and up here. Stay away from those if they're being trying to be passed off to you as a World War II M1 carbine. They're fine shooters, but they are not World War II correct. Also, you can see up here towards the receiver, you see our typical markings of US Carbine, Caliber 30 M1, which is on all M1 carbines. A little deviation about this in particular, neat thing about this M1 carbine, you see an AO. Now, like I said, I won't get into this video, but if you see a little stamp there, that's more than likely indicative of a subcontractor that made that receiver for that company. And that AO means Auto Ordnance. So Auto Ordnance, same Auto Ordnance that manufactured Thompson submachine guns during the time, also subcontracted for IBM and made that receiver for them, since they were trying to manufacture other parts as well. So that's a little cool piece of history, or a little cool fact about M1 carbines. You can find out so many different variations and subcontractors of parts. So anyway, let's go ahead and move more rearward and we'll wrap this video up. Okay guys, this brings us towards the end of our video. You can kind of notice here on our top stock, we have what's referred to as eye cut stock. Now these are very, very, very early. The very, very early M1 carbines have what's referred to as an eye. You can see it's kind of an eye cut. Normally they're just an oval cut. These are all stocks. The only difference is the very early ones have the eye cut, but it's not incorrect to have just a standard oval cut. These didn't stay too long in production. To ease production, this oval them out, but this is very, very early. Also, to tell a GI stock, most of the time they will be marked with some sort of cartouche like this, WRA and GHD, which is, or the cross cannons, I'm sorry, WRA, GHD, and the cross cannons. Also on the other side in the sling well, they'll be marked like on this particular post-war. You can see that we have a RMC marking, which means Rockola, and also a post-war inspector stamp on here. Now this stock has been sanded, I believe, at one point, or done something too, so that's one thing you have to watch. When these stocks, people like to sand or do things to them, and it also often scrubs the markings. So if you have a stock that still has real nice crisp markings that match the age, more likely your stock's not been tampered with. But if you have one that's kind of very faint, you can still see the cartouches in here. The very, very faint cartouches. I was trying to see, I believe this one does have a P cartouche, but it's so faint you can't hardly see it where it's been scrubbed. So that's one thing to note, whether your carbine stock's been messed with. Just keep an eye out for it, and like I said, look at your different stock codes. Make sure you've got some cartouches and some manufacturing code in the sling well that indicate whether your stock is wartime and World War II manufacturer. So with all that being said, guys, it's going to wrap up our video. I know it's kind of a lengthy one, but I kind of want to make a in-depth video talking about these M1 carbines because there's so much more knowledge to dive into. If you'd like to see more content, perhaps talking about different manufacturing and going in depth in the parts, please let me know. I consider myself to be a pretty treasure trove of knowledge when it comes to these guns. Like I said, I've researched them my whole life, and I really enjoy these firearms. But this video's purpose was kind of just try to quick glance and a quick video kind of educate people to keep them from getting burnt, because I've seen so many people time and time again get firearms that are not what people say they are, and they end up paying a large amount of cash for something that's not worth half of what they paid for it. So anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys watching. If you enjoyed the video, give me a like and subscribe. We can always do military surplus style content on the channel like this. Please subscribe, like I said, and leave me a comment. I always enjoy reading your all's comments and discussing military surplus topics. Without further ado, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you, and God bless.